I would lay in bed for up to 4 hours a day, every single day, because I couldn't motivate myself to get out of bed. I didn't have a job. My girlfriend, now wife, was working, and I had one thing that I had as a responsibility every day, and that was to make her a sandwich before she came home for her lunch break. And the only thing that would get me out of bed, 15 years before I'm capable of building a billion-dollar company, the only thing that got me out of bed was shame. So you have to understand, people had not misidentified me. This is not a story of someone who was born extraordinary. People just couldn't see it, that I was secretly this amazing person who was just waiting for their opportunity to shine. This was somebody who was lazy as had no idea what they were going to do with their life. I had no idea how I was going to pull it off. I was absolutely terrified. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw me staring back, and I knew how lazy I was. I knew how afraid I was. I knew how insecure I was. I knew that at my core, I wanted people to like me, and I was terrified that they had every reason in the world not to like me. But instead of becoming someone who was worthy of self-respect, who was worthy of their respect, I was trying to create the illusion that I was something, because that seemed like I could do it fast, instead of just buckling down and doing the hard-ass work of becoming somebody new. Because I had one failed misunderstanding. I believed that my talent and intelligence were fixed traits. I was born a certain way, and life was about making the most of what I'd been born with. What I did not yet understand is the reason humans are the ultimate apex predator. The reason that we have taken over the globe in a way that no other species has is because we are the ultimate adaptation machine. When I was a kid, the adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, was like, everyone just believed it. But because of that, I found myself putting myself in smaller and smaller rooms because, and this is going to be the most important thing that I say today, of this I assure you, what you build your self-esteem around matters. And whether you realize it or not, each and every one of you has something that sits at the core of how you feel about yourself. And from that, your identity, your sense of self-worth, your self-esteem, it is all built around that thing. And I will tell you the trap that most people fall into, that I certainly fell into, that led me into hiding in bed for 5 hours at a time every morning, was that I valued myself for being smart, for being right, for being good, for being worthy, all incredibly fragile traits. And I kept encountering people who were smarter than I was, who were right more than I was. And it made me feel badly about myself. Now, if there's anything you know it's that humans move towards the things that make them feel good, and they move away from the things that make them feel bad. So you can understand that is a terrible strategy to have this very fragile thing that holds my entire sense of identity and self-worth. I'm smart. I meet somebody smarter than me, and I don't think, what can I learn? Because I think an old dog can't learn new tricks. I believed that the human mind couldn't change. I believed that it was fixed. I believed that my talent and intelligence were just what they were. It all seemed true. It wasn't like I knew it to be a lie. It wasn't even like I knew that I had a choice to think of it a different way. But the reality is that's how shapeable a human being is. And I had made decisions. I had chosen to believe things. I had chosen to value myself for things. I had built my self-esteem around things that were not moving me forward. And so I began to change my belief system. I began to change the things that I value. But at that time, I just needed to learn. I needed to pay attention. I needed to see where I was weak. And the constant barrage on my self-esteem that I wasn't the smartest person in the room, that I wasn't right very often, it was unrelenting. And I remember saying to myself, all right, man, you got two choices. You can leave, like you don't need to be here. You don't need to want to become an entrepreneur. That doesn't have to be your life. You can go back to selling video games, which is what I was doing. You can go back to selling video games. You could go back to teaching. Like, if that's where you're going to be happy, then go do that. But if you really want to become extraordinary, you've got to separate your self-esteem from being wrong. You have to. Because otherwise, you're never going to see the opportunity to get better. And so I decided that I was going to start valuing myself. My entire value was going to be predicated on being willing to admit that I was wrong, on being willing to stare nakedly at my inadequacies. I was not going to hide from them. I was not going to run. I wasn't going to try to do some fancy story. I was just going to own it. Yo, you suck at this, man. You suck at this, but you're just not good at it yet. And once that word yet is lingering out there, suddenly it becomes a question of time allocation. So you know you could get good at it, but it's going to take a lot of time and energy. So what are the skills that you really want to get good at? And that goes back to that clarity. What do I need to get good at in order to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? It does not need to be something that somebody else values. It needs to be the thing I have chosen to value, that I've built into my life, this worship around getting good at that thing. I didn't have to get good at helping others build mindset. That didn't have to be my life, but that's what I've chosen.